Okay, good afternoon and welcome to this really important session, Changing the Face of Digital Skills Delivery. And I'm really pleased to kind of be kicking off this session because not only is it an important part of Birmingham Tech, I also represent the Digital Skills Partnership as well and all the wonderful work they do across the region. And I have the privilege of speaking to Andy Street this morning, and he is just such a big advocate of what this partnership has been able to achieve so far through all the boot camps, for all the initiatives, for all the programs. So Andy sends his thanks to everyone involved. And I also spoke to the Minister for Culture and Digital as well earlier on in the week. And again, Caroline sends her kind of thanks to all of the stuff that we're doing. She's seen a remarkable kind of change in people's lives. And obviously digital is going to be such an important facet of that moving onwards. So I've got kind of great privilege to hand over to Jane Frankland, who is the Director of Women in Cyber at Tech Talent Academy, to kick off this session. Over to you, Jane.
Thanks so much, Janice. So welcome, everyone. My name is Jane Frankland, and I'm delighted to be here and to host this virtual live event. Now, we're here because we see a bright future built from an industry that is inclusive, diverse, strong, kind, and progressive. Next slide, please. Making this happen is the West Midlands Digital Skills Partnership, who were formed in December 2018 by the West Midlands Combined Authority to help identify what digital skills provision is needed across the region. Encouraging partners across all industry sectors to develop basic to specialist level digital skill sets, attract investment and retain talent across the region, the West Midlands Digital Skills Partnership prides itself on several things. Firstly, on being a place where individuals and businesses have the digital skills to succeed and thrive. And secondly, its goal, to triple the output of 29,000 digital sector jobs in the region by 2030. Now, access to skilled digital workers is already a key factor that sets successful companies apart from failing ones. And in an increasingly data-driven future, this couldn't be more applicable than it is now. Rapid advances in AI, robotics, machine learning, the cloud, and other emerging technologies like quantum computing are happening in ever shorter cycles, changing the very nature of the jobs and the skills that are needed to do them. According to the World Economic Forum, at least 133 million new roles are set to emerge globally by 2022 as a result of the new division of labor between humans, machines, and algorithms. Technical skills like programming, app development, cybersecurity, cloud migration, along with skills that computers can't easily master, like creative thinking, problem solving, resilience, emotional intelligence, and negotiating, are going to be in high demand. To address this problem, companies must double down on their learning budgets, commit to reskilling, and be prepared for the transition. No one comes ready-made. Companies must also find new ways to develop their workforce for those outside traditional talent pools. For example, for women and people from diverse backgrounds, including young people, minority groups, those without a college education, and from low-income households. When companies do this, they tap into a huge pool of high potential and underused talent. They make themselves more adaptable, resilient, innovative, and profitable. And companies have to start now. The timing is absolutely critical. Even before COVID-19, it was estimated that more than half of all workers would require significant reskilling by 2022. But according to figures released by HMRC recently, almost 10 million people have temporarily been laid off by just over 1 million companies. We are going into one of the worst recessions that we have ever seen since World War II. And although it seems bleak, there is always an opportunity to be found out of adversity. Here in the West Midlands, we have the youngest population in the UK, one of the most diverse regions in the UK, with Coventry being the city of culture and Birmingham hosting the Commonwealth Games in 2022. We have more tech companies and are creating more jobs than any other region outside of London. In the West Midlands, we clearly recognise that digital is the golden thread across all industries. Next slide, please. So in the next hour or so, you're going to discover exactly how employers are benefiting from recruiting digital bootcamp talent and hear about the digital champion apprenticeships supporting teachers. You're going to be celebrating the success of learners who have retrained and changed their careers, having graduated from the Digital Retraining Fund. And you're going to hear a panel discussion featuring speakers from Microsoft, Lloyds Banking Group, the Niyo Enterprise, the University of Wolverhampton, and the West Midlands Digital Skills Partnership Board. In just a few minutes, you'll be hearing from Clare Hatton, the Head of Skills Delivery at the West Midlands Combined Authority. Then at 1 o'clock, I'll be introducing Jane Fallon, the Vice Chair of the West Midlands Digital Skills Partnership, who'll be presenting on your hired, learners and employers. After this at 1:25, I'll be hosting a panel on the skills of today. And then at 1:40, I'll be closing the event. Next slide, please. So just before I hand over to Claire, please do follow us on Twitter and tweet about what's going on. We want to share as much value as we can, and this is a great way to do it. Here are the Twitter handles and hashtags you need to know about. Next slide, please. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce and hand over to Clare Hatton, the Head of Skills Delivery at the West Midlands Combined Authority. Over to you, Clare.
Thank you, Jane. And good afternoon, everybody. 12 months ago, I stood on stage at Tech Week, and I distinctly remember saying that there are sometimes when you work in the public sector that you actually really feel you've made a difference. And 12 months ago, we introduced our first set of digital retraining providers. So it's really timely to come back 12 months later and tell you what I think we've achieved. And I think we have made a difference. Still loads more to do. But actually, it's been a great year for us at WMCA and the Digital Skills Partnership. So we now have 20 providers across the region delivering on our digital retraining fund. They have helped over 800 people so far, and more to come. And we've got a whole new digital offer in terms of the curriculum in this region. And I think it's the best in the country. I can't find anywhere else in the UK that has the digital training that we have that's relevant for jobs, that's helping such a diverse range of people. So I'm really proud of what we've achieved in the last 12 months. In terms of our providers, we've got a real range. We've diversified the organisations who are delivering tech training in the region. Yes, we have our colleges working with us, which is brilliant, and our training providers, but we also have a whole new range of organisations who've not been in this government funded space before. And I think we're really changing the skills ecosystem and bringing real value and a real difference to the skills training market. In terms of the people we've reached, I've said over 800 so far have been through the digital retraining. And if you looked at the individuals, you'll see some of them later, but they don't look and feel like your usual tech grad. I think we are changing the face of the people who are undertaking digital training, making it more accessible, making it relevant, making it something that people want to take up, that exploding that myth about techies all sitting behind a computer and for geeky men. We've got some fabulous providers working with different client groups, particularly supporting women and driving a different type of people into the tech industry. And we've got a new offer. And that's the one thing that when I started this job and we looked at digital, this is what we really wanted. We wanted people teaching coding, software development, cyber, all the skills that Jane was talking about. And now we've got that in our offer. And we have moved away from some of the traditional qualifications, some of the off the shelf. Our providers are really designing curriculum and teaching that makes people absolutely fit for the workplace with the skills that employers want. And that's why we want employers to be recruiting from our boot camps, and they are, and you'll hear from some of them later as well. One of the other things I think we've been able to do is we have a real focus on the region. Jane talked about our ambition to grow the digital jobs and the workforce in the region. And despite the bumpy ride we're having in the economy at the moment, that is still our ambition for the region. Recently, you would have heard the Prime Minister announce the new National Skills Fund and an additional 1.5 million to top up our 5 million, showing how well we're doing already in this space. And we believe we're leading the way in the country. We also believe that one size doesn't fit all. And we are challenging that National Skills Fund shouldn't be national. We think it should be regional, because we need the training in our region to deliver for our businesses, for our residents. And within a national framework, we believe that what we do, bringing together employers and providers, really creates that high value training that matches people's needs. And we can be fleet of foot. We can change to meet changing demands and requirements. So we will continue to push to have as much influence as we can from a regional level as more investment comes in through the Skills Fund next April. And then some wider work we've been doing over the last 12 months. We've got our first 2 demonstrator sites launched through our EdTech Fund. Walsall College working with Fujitsu and Sandwell College working with Microsoft to have amazing spaces that show the possibilities of when, you know, big tech companies work hand in hand with FE colleges, the difference they can make. And those demonstrator sites will not only reach out to learners and to businesses, but they will show other providers and colleges how these things can work. They will work as test beds, testing new approaches. And I think that's fabulous for our region to have that. And then the other work we've been able to do over the last 12 months through the support of our partners on the Digital Skills Partnership is we've been able to bring lots of services to businesses, to schools, to residents through our partnerships with Microsoft, Amazon, Fujitsu, Cisco, to name a few, delivering things to businesses in the region. And we've been able to make a real change in the services that are offered to our businesses. So it's been a great year overall, but it's never enough, is it? There's always more we need to do. We need to push harder and faster at the pace of change. We need more investment in our region so we can take our training out to more residents and equip people with the skills that businesses want and businesses will need in the future. And over the next 12 months, what is there in store for us? We're going to keep being ambitious for our residents as we move through and support the economic recovery and work towards, we always say, a happier, healthier and more prosperous West Midlands. And I think happier, healthier, more prosperous and tech-enabled West Midlands. So great year. Huge thank you to our board and to our partners and our providers and everybody who's supported us over the last 12 months. Thank you, Jane.
Thanks so much, Claire. That's really, really insightful. And I'm really excited about what you've just said, actually. So now we're going to move over to the next segment of the event, where you're going to hear directly from the training providers, learners and employers. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Jane Fallon, the Vice Chair of the West Midlands Digital Skills Partnership. Over to you, Jane.
Thank you very much, Jane to Jane. So just picking up, so my day job is I have worked in the public sector, leading teams who are building and delivering and running digital public services for the last 20 years. And the other job I've been delighted to do alongside is to be Vice Chair for this Digital Skills Partnership. And in particular, something I have loved doing is going out and speaking to training providers and, importantly, some of the learners, and hearing some of their stories about the great work that they're doing and how they have been able to retrain and make a change and get back into the workforce. I have a bias. I'm very particular. There are lots of teams who are based well across the West Midlands who are involved in building digital public services. And I truly believe that the people in those teams, building them and delivering them, people from here who are based in the West Midlands. So we have the right people who are building digital public services for people who live in the region. And with that, we're really lucky that we have some training providers with us today to tell us their stories. and some of the learners, and indeed some of the employers that these learners have gone on to. And the first training provider we're going to talk to is Netcom, and we're lucky we have the CEO of Netcom with us today, Cian. I'm just wondering, Cian, if you can start to tell us about the sort of training that you do and your role in this retraining scheme.
Thank you, Jane. Hi everybody. My name is Cian. I'm part of Netcom Training. We're a digital specialist training provider. We've been operating for about 10 years now, specializing in all aspects of digital training, from cybersecurity through to specialist niche training products for different organizations, helping companies transform their business, into the new world of where we are. We've always been a kind of like a cybersecurity and Microsoft specialist training provider. We work very closely with the WMCA, and the kind of training that we provide helps companies reform their organization, and so increase productivity and stuff like that. So it's not your general your BTech and your stuff like this, but it's more of a helping companies change the way they work. So there's a huge need for this, especially now, how you mentioned earlier, with the way the climate's going, and companies now are trying to cut things out, and they're trying to save costs on staff, and they save costs in the outsourcing parts of the thing. It is really important that we start to look at specializing training needs to make sure that companies have the right skills, the right staff for what they need internally. When I was familiarized with the Digital Training Fund, I kind of instantly knew it was going to be a huge success, because in the industry that we're in, we get to see, and like employers like where I'm based right now, companies that are struggling to find the skills that they need to grow their organization, and when training costs are into the thousands, and it's difficult to find those sourcing. It is a pleasure to help them and make them gonna cross that line. So the Digital Training Fund has really helped. I mean, this particular company here, it's a sign manufacturing organization, so they specialize in architecture and design elements of retail aspects and businesses in general all around the Midlands and nationally. And they were making a change in their organization, so they were diversifying what they're doing and going into a new sector. And they struggled to find certain skills in terms of CAD design and architectural drawing design work, and certain machinery that they bought. The Digital Fund was able to support them, so we were able to train up people so that they can operate those machines. There was a talk of potentially outsourcing those jobs. However, now not only has it kept the jobs local for them internally, it's actually brought more jobs to the area as well, and it's actually made this area a bit more known now for this type of work. So it's been a huge success story, really, and a lot of there's a lot of good has come out of this. I'm actually based at the sign shop. I have with me a success story learner, Nabil Qureshi, I'm going to hand over in a minute, and also the employer as well, Adil Tayab. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to pass out to Nabil now.
Hi, Mohammed.
Hi everyone.
Hi, it's lovely to meet you. So tell us about your story and what you did before and how you got into this, and how you've been doing the training. Would be fantastic to hear more.
Okay, yeah. So obviously, as I said, my story it's actually quite interesting, to be honest. I previously was I was a bus driver before I got into the whole the CAD designing. So I wanted a change of career. So I joined a company design shop. I was a trainee designer at that time. My boss obviously decided to bring in new machinery. So we bought in a CNC machine, and it required a lot of AutoCAD drawing. Now we tried to sort of get the training sorted from other companies, but it was very expensive at that time to get the course on board. Then we approached Netcom Training, and we told them the whole situation, what we were trying to do, and it was really hard to find somebody to do that sector of job within the company. Netcom Training then sort of bespoke the course for us, and I mean, I done the course myself for 3 months, and I'm now a successful senior CAD designer now. I'm the guy who runs that machine finally. And it's really good because it's actually made us well known in the market as well. Previously all our work was sort of outsourced because we had the machine, but we couldn't operate it. But now, where we were outsourcing, it's the other way around. People are coming to us now. Other companies are coming to us, and we're doing the work for them. So we're sourcing the work to them, and then they're forwarding on to their clients. But yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because I had a conversation with a few people, and like, how did you get from there to there? Because the main software, Cut 2D, we use Adobe, we use Illustrator. These are very complicated, sort of nitty. Programs to use, especially with the CNC machines. But now we've got the course, we've got the knowledge, and obviously we could pass it on. But Netcom definitely, they've 100% helped us out. And but yeah, me and the boss, we're both happy now. And I'm gonna hand it over to my boss. He is a nice guy. That's not a lie, that's the truth. He's a very nice guy. I'm gonna pass it over to him now anyway. But it was great meeting you guys. And thank you for taking the time to listen to my story.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey guys.
Hello.
My name's Adil Tayab. I'm the managing director of the sign shop. I started this company up about 10 years ago now, just shy of 10 years. We specialize in sign manufacturing, designing, AutoCAD drawing, and we've got about 10 members of staff, all doing the manufacturing, the installation, and stuff. And over the years, we've had to do a lot of changes, you know, just to meet our clients' needs and stuff. We've had to invest in new softwares, which at the start, I looked at employing new members of staff, and it was quite difficult because I was an up-and-coming company. Our budget wasn't, you know, we never had a lot of budget in our pot, and the salaries, it just wasn't justifiable enough for our company to pay out that kind of money. And also we've had to invest in new machinery just to meet our clients' needs. Then we came across Netcom training. I came across them through my LinkedIn account, to be fair. Gave them a call, spoke about it, and it sounded a bit too good to be true. And it saved us a lot of money. It helped us climb the ladder. They've done they've trained up all our members of staff for us the way we needed to do it. I looked at, approaching different avenues as well, getting, staff that ain't qualified, but it was just causing a lot of problems in the company. The jobs weren't getting done properly, and these guys they manufactured like a niche program to train all our staff up. Yeah, and I think it's been a success, really. I couldn't recommend them highly enough.
Brilliant. And was it training around the working day, or how did it work for you?
So they had the training program set for them, and they had to follow their schedules, and it was all online based for them, and they had to go into they had to leave work as well to go to the offices, just so they could have some face-to-face as well, so there's a better understanding for everything. But I mean, it has been a success. I have started climbing the ladder now. We've started our own CAD drawings and outsourcing work as well, whereas before I used to have to pay other companies to do a lot of my CAD work, and now everything's in-house, and now I've become the supplier.
So now you're a happy employer with happy staff. So that's
I am indeed, yeah.
Cutting edge. That's been absolutely fantastic. It's really good to hear your story, and particularly to meet Mohammed as well, your learner. So, and I will definitely look you up later after this call to find out more about your company. That's really interesting. Thank you so much for your time. We've got a couple of other training providers to talk to you as well. If it's possible to move to the next slide. Because we've had quite a few, and we're now going to speak to Janice from Tech Talent UK to talk about some of the training they've been doing with the Retraining Fund.
Yes, thanks Jane. So I'm Janice O at Tech Talent Academy. We are engaged with the West Midlands Combined Authority to create a pool of gender diverse tech talent for West Midlands employers. So it was really important for us to, and the Combined Authority, to create a really diverse pool of talent coming through. So we're in the process of training up to 300 women who will have a really valuable skill set in software engineering, data engineering, and cybersecurity. However, initially we had 3,000 women applying for the training over a 4-month period. So I think it's fair to say there's been a pretty big demand for the training. But these interventions are absolutely critical. We need to create a diverse tech industry. And also, I think we've been able to demonstrate that without this particular one, we would have 300 less women in tech. So you can clearly see the value of it. So one of our trainees, Rafaro Chabanda, had a similar experience to myself in that she was the only female in the classroom to be learning how to code. And our individual experiences are over 30 years apart. So I had planned to hand you over to Rafaro so she could tell you more about her passion for tech and how the Academy changed things for her. However, apologies, I don't think Rafaro's been able to make it today. I can't see her in the list, but I was going to tell you a bit more about Rafaro's experience anyway. So in terms of Rafaro's background, she had been through her computer science degree. She did incredibly well, but she found that she didn't feel very confident about her ability, and after graduation she wasn't able to secure work for herself, and she had been looking for many months following the end of her studies. But she found Tech Talent Academy and discovered that being supported by a whole community of women in tech made her feel really incredible about her capability and the skill set that she had. And after that, she sailed straight through into work immediately afterwards. It's amazing the difference it made. So I wouldn't imagine she would have learned a huge amount more than what she'd learned at university. She would have learned a bit more, not so much the same as a trainee coming from scratch without a coding background, but it gave her an incredible experience, actually something that she's super excited about and she feels has been life-changing for her. So a really important intervention there. And Rafaro has now gone on to work for IMI Critical Engineering. She went through the data software course and has now moved into a data engineering role there, which is wonderful to see. So again, we're very grateful to the Combined Authority to be supporting the residents in the way they're doing and showing real innovation in the approach. So things aren't being left to chance now, or for employers to individually try and sort out themselves, because we know that approach isn't really working. What this has created now is a real sort of momentum and force for change, which is exciting to see.
How is your training structured for people? Is it boot camp style? Is it evenings? Is it around other commitments? Just really interesting to find out how it's delivered.
Yeah, so we prefer to call it an academy. So the academy is structured over, so it's 7 weeks for data engineering, about 12 weeks for software development. Very quickly after we kicked off, and it's about 12 weeks for cybersecurity as well, but very quickly after we kicked off, we had some women approaches to say, I would really love to do this, but I can't afford to leave my job. I can't afford to give up work and study for 12 weeks and then try and find another role. So they were quick to sort of flag up that part-time study would be absolutely key for them. So we implemented that straight away. And about half of our trainees are now studying part-time while in work, which will give them a new skill set, which is really exciting, and will move them straight into tech role on completion. So exactly the same as the full-time course, but just over a slightly longer period of time. But we're keen to be able to provide all the solutions, because we know that, you know, women can be carers, they can have young children at home, they can have all sorts of different situations which they have to work around. And clearly, if you've got a full-time job, you can't be studying full-time at the same time. So So the part-time courses have been great, actually, from that perspective, and really encouraging to see that they're helping.
Have the courses mostly been online? Obviously, they will have been during the COVID period, but I'm just wondering about how you deliver the training.
Yes, so pre-pandemic rather, it would we had blended learning, so we're very keen on blended learning. So 2 days in the classroom, 3 days remote, to make the courses as inclusive and flexible as possible. So we understood that 5 days a week sitting in the classroom, you know, studying from 9 to 5:30 and then straight into homework at 6 was not going to be possible for many people. So we created a way of studying that was far more accessible. So we had to, having launched the part-time course, we were able to switch pretty quickly when the pandemic hit to online delivery only. And we support our cohorts in that way now. And hopefully, when this nightmare's over, we'll get back into the classroom again, because we do miss each other. But yeah, it's great that we've been able to continue, actually, because I think it's been much needed. And obviously people have been furloughed, they've been made redundant. You know, there's been an awful lot going on over the past few months, where it's become even more urgent to upskill people and give them a relevant skill set that's going to help them into new careers and new work.
Do you think it's also given an opportunity for people to build a support group around them of others going through a similar experience?
Yes, absolutely. And I think academies are great for that, actually, because you don't feel you're on your own. You know, you're surrounded by people that look like you, that are in similar circumstances as you, and they're all taking on the same journey. So there's an awful lot of camaraderie, which is lovely to see, and students supporting each other and sharing their knowledge with each other. And it's lovely to see that them all sort of graduate together and go off into roles after that. And people cry tears of joy when they come off an academy, because, you know, they've maybe harboured this dream for many years that they wanted to be in tech. You know, we didn't really believe that they could be in tech, had people telling them you're not technical. And then they've been able to kind of prove everyone wrong, and themselves as well, which is, it's terrific to see, actually. It's wonderful.
Oh, it's lovely. So it's a shame that Rufaro can't be here today, but maybe if she, I don't know, writes her story up in a blog or something similar, we can share it in a different way.
Absolutely, we will do, yeah. Lovely, thanks very much, Jane, thanks.
Thank you, Janice. And next slide, please. We have one more training provider to meet, and that's Louise from Primary Goal. Louise, just checking you're there and really interested in hearing the story of Primary Goal.
Hi Jane, can you hear me okay?
Perfectly, that's good, thank you.
So yeah, I created Primary Goal 5 years ago, just really to focus on helping teachers to be confident when using technology in the classroom, but ultimately to enable children, and this came from my own son, who wasn't able to access technology in the classroom, and that was something that was really affecting his mental health, his happiness in the school environment. And he felt that if he'd have been able to access an iPad to be able to use for maths and English, it would have made a massive difference to him. Primary Goal now, obviously, a few years later, we've got over 80 apprentices on programme based in schools across the country, and the apprentices are helping the teachers to really learn how to embed technology into the classroom and to help children to access technology whilst at school. And I think that's been impacted in the pandemic. I'm sat here today at Stychel Primary School, and I've got the head teacher and the apprentice, so I wanted them to talk to you about their experiences, because you know that they've been actually living it and breathing it for the last few months. Just hand you over.
Hi, hello, I'm Karen Ferguson. I'm the head teacher at Stychel Primary School. Pre-lockdown, we had been on a journey with Primary Goal. Our current apprentice, Amy, in fact, no, she's not our current apprentice because she's now completed the programme. We have a brand new apprentice who started a new apprenticeship as a digital advocate, but He isn't with us because he's not the person talking about the journey today. That's Amy. Amy was our second apprentice. She completed the programme at the end of last academic year. Pre-lockdown, we'd been working with Primary Goal for over 2 years. Both of the apprentices that we've had have had a significant impact on provision in school. They've been instrumental in ensuring that hardware is available throughout the school. When teachers have hiccups, when technology isn't playing the game, which it sometimes doesn't, instead of them needing to pause the lessons, what they've been able to do is send for the apprentice, and the apprentice comes and does the troubleshooting so that the learning isn't interrupted. So that was going on pre-lockdown. And then we could anticipate that there was the likelihood that schools were going to close, and that happened relatively quickly. It happened within a week. So in preparation for lockdown, we knew we needed 2 separate platforms. We needed a mechanism for staff to be able to communicate with each other, for us not to lose the companionship, the support, the relationships that we have with each other. And so for that, we explored using and utilising something we already had as part of a provision in school, and that was Microsoft Teams. So pre-lockdown, we hadn't really used it at all. We only really signed up for or joined meetings when we were invited to by others. And generally speaking, we still very much worked in a more pedestrian way, where we would travel to other places to have meetings and we would meet in person. So one of the things we needed to do was to get staff up and running and more confident in using Teams. So that was on Monday of the week before lockdown, that was Amy's priority, to look at being able to communicate clearly with staff and send them kind of how-to prompts for Teams. So that got underway first of all. We also needed, and this was perhaps even more important, an online learning platform for our children. One that ensured that their learning wasn't paused, that it wasn't negatively impacted by lockdown, where we would be able to ensure that there was provision from day one, from 9 o'clock on that Monday morning, the first day of lockdown. We wanted provision in place for our children so that there was no pause. So we explored different options. So that was a leadership team responsibility to explore the options and to discuss what had worked well, and to look online and to find testimonials for different solutions. And we opted for Seesaw, which was a programme that had been sort of introduced in a handful of local primary schools, but wasn't one that we were au fait with at all. So in order to get that underway, the first thing we needed to do was make contact with other schools that had it. And one of the schools within our network had started to use it as a means of sharing pupil work with parents. So a little bit along the lines of like a learning journal, but they hadn't fully harnessed the capacity of the programme either. So they were looking at being able to increase their usage, and they had arranged a training session on that Wednesday. So we very quickly got Amy and my deputy head and a representative from each of the phases to be able to piggyback on that training at the other school. We changed the date of our staff meeting so that we could have our staff meeting the following day, so that there'd be the opportunity for them to transfer that learning across. And as soon as that was in place, then Amy had to get underway and start contacting Seesaw to get the licensing sorted out. And it is an American company, and to pay for it, we needed to pay in US dollars, and the school credit card wouldn't allow us to do that. So we had to find a different way of paying for all of that. In the meantime, Amy was frantically trying to find out as much information as she possibly could online, and working with our IT support through NS Optimum to make sure that we had all of the infrastructure in place to allow that to happen. She then worked with the apprentice at the local primary school, who also has graduated from the Primary Goal Partnership. So that's testimony to the programme, really, that there's this network of former apprentices that's building across schools in the city, that means there's a support network for years to come. So it's not just a one-off and then they're lost. So long as those apprentices stay in schools, we should be building capacity for the future, which is fantastic, because it's something that schools have often struggled with. And I think that possibly IT providers have benefited hugely from, in terms of the costs to school. But having somebody come in occasionally is not the same as having someone on site that can come and offer support throughout. And that's what Amy's been able to do for us. So then once this has all been set up, we've got it all set up for our users, we then had to make sure that everyone knew how to use it. So we needed to train staff in the use of the platform so that they knew how to transition from classroom provision onto this learning platform. We needed to make sure that our pupils knew how to use it. And so on Friday, the 20th of March at 2 o'clock, when we finally got all the pieces of the jigsaw in place, we delivered a whole school assembly, the last whole school assembly that we've been able to have in this calendar year, to all pupils, kind of engaging them in the platform, creating that hook so that we wouldn't lose the momentum that we had in school, and telling them what they could expect on Monday morning and how to use their QR codes in order to be able to log on and to get up and running as soon as they possibly could. And then we also had to communicate with parents, because of course they needed to be active participants in this remote education programme. So we needed to draw on all of the information that was available about the platform and share that in an accessible way to all of our parents, so that nobody lost any time in being able to access it. So all of this would only have been possible, I think, with the hard work of Amy, who did go over and above on a really steep learning curve. She's taken staff with her. She's been really well supported by staff in school. So she hasn't been alone in it, but we've been focusing on the teaching and learning and communication aspect, making sure that everybody knew what was expected. Amy's been involved in the background, making sure that all the technology was available for us. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Amy and she can talk you through some of her journey and some of the challenges that she faced.
Welcome, Amy.
Hello, I hope this lighting isn't too bad. So when I joined Primary Goal as an apprentice, I was a 16-year-old school leaver. And over the course of my apprenticeship, I've been able to develop really most of my professional skills that I will need going forward for my future career. So one of the biggest ones that has been able to develop and I think flourish in a sense is my communication skills, because before lockdown, I was talking to staff daily, and this allowed me to build positive relationships. And then from that, I could see how the teachers worked in the classroom, find the best piece of software for them and teach them in the most effective way. So they were able to basically utilise that tool as soon as possible to help the children develop their teaching and learning. Then obviously lockdown, the lovely pandemic that's currently facing us, kicked in. And I had to utilise all my skills that I developed to be able to set up a platform. I was talking to external companies, external schools, parents occasionally after we'd initially set it up, answering any queries. I created how-to documents to make sure that all the members of staff, if I wasn't being able to be available at all points, they had something they could fall back on and look at and read at their own pace to make sure they understood even after all the training on that last week was given out. I was able, and even since lockdown, for, like my head teacher said, Seesaw, we're still utilising it today, and we're finding new ways and new functions that we didn't have time to look at and utilise to its full possibility. So we're still developing it day in and day out. And it's something that we're now incorporating in, for example, homeworks being posted on there. If a child has to isolate, that's being used again. But the whole apprenticeship has just really helped me develop my confidence, how I feel in the professional business world. I've been very lucky to have this as a first job. And yeah, thanks to that lovely curveball as well, I feel like I can take on more or less everything if there's a chocolate bar at the end.
It's been lovely hearing your story, and I have to say, I'm pretty sure my kids' school doesn't have a primary goal apprentice, so I shall be emailing them about that. And my experience as a parent was very different. It's been lovely hearing your story and the work that you've had going on. Thank you, and thank you to all of our training providers, apprentices and employers for joining us for this session. It's been absolutely fantastic. And I shall now hand back to other Jane.
Thanks so much, Jane. That was so incredibly interesting. So now it's time for a panel discussion on the digital skills for today. And here we'll be exploring what organizations are doing to support individuals and businesses' digital skills and how they're preparing people for the in-demand skills needed for today and tomorrow. So please welcome to, I'm going to say our virtual stage. I want to welcome the panelists, Oyin Kansola, the CEO of Niyo Enterprise, which delivers the Black Coding Bootcamp for Black women in the West Midlands, Phil Gravestock, the Dean of Learning and Teaching at the University of Wolverhampton, Lee Jones, the Public Sector Digital Skills Lead, UK at Microsoft, Faye Van Fleet, the Policy and Partnership Manager at Lloyds Banking Group, and Matt Jones, the Chair of the West Midlands Digital Skills Partnership Board. Okay, so welcome panelists. If I can direct my first question to Matt. The government recently announced a national skills entitlement at level 3 for adults. What do you hope to see as part of this entitlement for digital skills?
Well, I think it would be a good outcome for all people leaving school and beginning to look for work to be able to have a fundamental employability baseline from which they can operate. I think at the moment, a lot of curriculums in learning will be focused on various different outcomes, but being able to have a kind of digital foundation upon which they can springboard into other areas is critical. So having that as a starting point, as a baseline and an expectation for everybody, I think is essential.
If I can direct the same question to you, Oyin Kansola, what's your view on that?
I think right now, in terms of the government's announcement, I think Black women, because that's kind of where my focus is at, cannot be left behind. And so that's kind of why we're running the Black Coder Bootcamp, because we really want to engage with the fact that, as you mentioned earlier on, the World Economic Forum actually predicts by 2030 that automation will replace a lot of jobs that Black women unfortunately are in. So for me, I really want to be able to upskill Black women so that we are not stuck in this rut of poverty and we're also economically empowered.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. Faye, my next question is to you actually. How do you see the balance between formal qualifications and skills-based training changing to meet the needs of the tech sector? What needs to change and how do we make it happen?
Hi everyone. So I would definitely say working together is so important, and actually seeing the kind of stories that we've heard from earlier today, that getting that on the job experience is so vital, and it's what makes a difference, and it's what helps kind of with the retention and the absolute attraction of the right kind of employee for employers. I think working together, working with the West Midlands Combined Authority will be really important to make sure that we're shaping the right outcomes for kind of both the demand and the supply side. So really, really important to just collaborate on that together.
Brilliant, thank you. Lee, what's your view on that?
So yeah, again, a lot of what Faye said actually I echo. I think that making sure that you have employer-led initiatives are really, really important, because that's where that's where the demand is, and that's where individuals can really grow. And I think people and organisations really need to think about being agile and being flexible and bringing people into organisations that actually have that ability to really continue to grow and continue to develop. So yeah, I mean, collaboration again, like Faye said, it's essential. We can't do it on our own. I mean, Microsoft sit on the digital skills partnership board, and we know that working with local authorities across the whole of the country is essential, and working with central government is essential, but actually public-private sector collaboration is where it's going to happen, because we can't do this on our own, irrespective of whether you're a tech company or you're a smaller provider. It has to be done together.
Completely agree with that. Great points. Phil, I've got a question for you now. There have been a number of events across the week talking about diversity and inclusion, and we've touched on that today. How do we make diverse talent in the tech sector normal? And how are you doing it? How are you doing it with the work that you're doing?
Lovely, thank you, Jane. I think the sort of the wonderful thing about technology, it has the ability to level the playing field, whoever you are, whatever your background or circumstances. And I think it's really important. I'll pick on two particular things. I think role models are really vital. And I think it's great we've seen so many this afternoon in this session. It's just been fantastic to hear those stories. But we've got people like Benedicta Banga in the Midlands, who's doing the Black Base, who's the founder of this sort of shopping app. I was in a conference yesterday with Sal Khan, the founder of the Khan Academy. And I think it's really important that people can see that others have done these things, actually almost provide that inspiration to carry through. But I think the second thing is just going back to something I think it was Claire that was talking about earlier, about the tech companies working with FE providers to have these demonstrator sites, because we mustn't forget, and it's something we've recognised in the university, and I'm sure probably elsewhere, not everybody has access to the equipment they need. There is still some form of sort of digital poverty, in some cases digital exclusion, and it might be students, in our case, don't have access to particular equipment at particular times that they need it. So having these sites, having these areas where people can go, people can learn, people can develop their skills outside of their sort of home sometimes, if lockdown allows, is really important. So I think this is where the Digital Skills Partnership is so vital in terms of offering that opportunity, offering the sort of the training and those spaces to do these things.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Faye, another question for you actually. What have you seen over the last 12 months that's made the biggest difference or impact in digital skills, and why?
Great question. So I think, obviously the pandemic has thrown the spotlight onto digital skills in a way that has never been done before. As somebody who's been banging the kind of digital skills drum for several years now, I can certainly say that whether we like it or not, it has probably been the most impactful, and we'll probably see the biggest rise in more people being online now. What I think is great about that, though, is that actually people, because they've been forced to be online, are now understanding the benefits of that a little bit more. So whether you're a business, a charity, or an individual who's looking for a new role, then I think people now are really seeing why digital skills are so important, and actually kind of are more keen than ever to adopt them. So for me, it's almost the motivation that has been a kind of silver lining of the pandemic. And I think it's really, really great that especially in the West Midlands and as part of the DSP board, there's such a focus on that end to end, not just the digital skills and improving the confidence. There's the working together with employers to make sure that once the skills are developed, there's a role at the end of it. And that's where, it's not just one piece. I think as we mentioned earlier on, it was probably Claire that said it at the beginning, it's the golden thread that runs through everything. And it's really just kind of had a huge and amazing impact on in the last 12 months.
Fantastic, thanks so much. That's so true. Now I've got a final question here. Actually, I'm going to ask all of you to answer this one. What is the one thing that you would like the Digital Skills Partnership, or even tech companies, I don't mind how you answer that, to take forward in the next 12 months? And if we start with you, Phil.
Thank you, Jay. I'll go back to what I was just saying. I do think it's actually providing the opportunity for people to come and and just have a go, have a play with the equipment, and just get the basics and build the confidence. I think the digital confidence side of things, as Faye was just saying, has just grown so much. We can build on that now. So I think it's just providing those opportunities, providing the sites in local areas, almost in the regions, as we're trying to do through this partnership, to come through and allow people to access the equipment, resources, training, etc.
Brilliant, thank you. Lee, what's your view?
So I think the main thing is around collaboration and obviously leading the way. So on Tuesday, actually, Microsoft announced a campaign. So we call it the Get On 2021 campaign. And it's about how can we support 1.5 million people in the UK to get the skills they need to move into tech careers. And we're working with big organisations and local organisations. So I think it's a case of how do we all work together? And ultimately, that's about connecting the talent with the opportunities. So part of that is a commitment to help 300,000 people to connect to the tech jobs. And we're not going to do that alone. We're going to do that across all of these different organisations. Fantastic work that we're doing in different areas. I mean, Janice mentioned before around the Tech Talent Academy and stuff they're doing. Microsoft are looking at how we can augment some of the initiatives, really add value to what's happening on the ground. So I think it's very much a case of understanding how organisations and the local authorities, the combined authorities, can really work collectively with these big organisations like Microsoft and the other companies to really, to actually kind of make that difference and make that impact.
Brilliant, thank you. Ian Consola, what's your view?
I think my view kind of echoes with what everyone said. I think we can't do this alone. We have to do this together. And also, whilst we're doing that, we need to make sure that we're including everyone in it. For me, again, as I said earlier on, my concern is about Black women. I study economics, so master's level, and I realized, wow, Black women probably are, going to be in poverty if we don't do something about it. So making sure that we're including everyone, including the minority groups, and also ensuring that we're speaking their language as well. Just like Janice as well, we had over 1,000 applications for our bootcamp, and that shows that there's a demand, and from it, and that's not 1,000 just from the Birmingham, that's from across the world. Wow. So it's a case of making sure that we're working together, not just working, this obviously is about the West Midlands, but making sure that we're working with other regions as well, connecting with other regions and the work that they're doing in Manchester and in London, everywhere in the UK and across the world, to be honest, because we're becoming more of a global society. We're becoming a lot more connected, especially with the rise of COVID. So that's kind of how I see that we can push this forward.
Absolutely. Thank you. Matt?
Yeah, to echo pretty much what everyone said, but I think in summary, really, it's about understanding the pathways for candidates, if we call them that, from any part of our society, our population, to be able to track the journey from where they are to where they want to be, which is a real job, and a real job with digital skills. And being able to make that clear to them so that they can look at the various trailheads, if you like, and decide which path they want to go down and where it's going to take them. And along the way, we also need to understand, as a community, as a country, how that process is funded properly, so that it doesn't become an over-encumbrance on government, doesn't become an over-encumbrance on employers, and that there's a shared mix from end to end. So that's what I'd like to see, is the whole thing that's currently beginning to take off in the West Midlands, really beginning to mature and come into something that's very meaningful.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Now I know we are almost out of time actually, so Faye, I'm going to have to go to the close now. So thank you to all my panelists, I really appreciate that. You've made some really great points there. So if we can move to the closing slide, thank you. So today you've heard about how employers are benefiting from recruiting digital bootcamp talent, how digital champion apprenticeships are supporting teachers, how careers have been changed and learners have succeeded by having access to digital skills retraining and funding, and what employers are doing to support them into work. In closing, I want to thank everyone for attending the West Midlands Digital Skills event at Birmingham Tech Week 2020. To all our partners, Birmingham Tech Week and Janice Mouse, On behalf of myself and the West Midlands Digital Skills Partnership, we would like to say thank you for your support, as without your support, we simply could not have staged an event like this and of this caliber today. To our speakers, Clare Hatton, Mohammed Qureshi, Janice Ray, Kian Raja, Jane Fallon, and panelists, Phil Gravestock, Matt Jones, Lee Jones, Faye Van Flute, and Yo Solar. To our curators, Marika Bedford, Kevin Vashi, Charlene Coates, Olivia Houston, and Lisa Ollis, and the West Midlands Combined Authority, who have put in hours of work just to construct this event. On behalf of myself, the delegates and sponsors, thank you for producing such a highly valuable and really relevant event today. So if we can move to the next slide. If you would like to know more about what we are doing, please do sign up to receive more information. Just go to the Digital Skills Partnership newsletter. Here you can see it on your screen, and that actually closes the event. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for attending today and participating. I hope you found value from this event, and I look forward to what we're going to achieve together next year in 2021. Thank you.